What's going on Instagram and live? Or no, what's going on YouTube? This is going to be pre-recorded, but I am also live on Instagram. They get to see Instagram gets to see what's happening live. Let me pin the link to good old YouTube on Instagram. Okay, we send that, and we get at a good pin, so people know to come to YouTube. So what I am doing today is episode 6 of the Mr. McMahon documentary. Hi Michaela. Just fair use, by the way. This is going to be fair use. So I've already recorded episodes 1 through 5. 1 through 4 is out. I'll release 5 probably in a couple days, and the 6th one a little bit later. I could kind of hear you upstairs laughing, Michaela. Um, so I'm gonna, as soon as I find it, there you go, home. YouTube will begin episode 5 or episode 6 of the Mr. McMahon documentary. Looks like it's still. See if I can end it. No, no, I don't want to download it. I didn't want to come out of it either. Come on, Netflix, give me a break. This is fair use. I'm just gonna be doing a video reaction. I'm not gonna show the video. Fair use. YouTube, fair use. Fair use. We're just gonna be doing commentary on it for YouTube and Instagram, so I don't have to get cut off. Because I think Instagram cut. I was doing a live video a second ago. I think Instagram cut off after I told them exactly what I was going to do. Now, this is the end of episode 5. So let's skip that and start episode 6. Let's go. Okay, there's a problem because I can't hear it. Why can't I hear you? Okay, let's go. Problem is my mic was muted. So I guess YouTube, you can hear me now. Welcome YouTube. After I was doing all this talking. We are now at the begin. Go to start. Fair use YouTube. Fair use. The episode 6 of the Mr. McMahon documentary. Episode 5. High glam decor with Piper. Coming up in a minute. Don't think I'm gonna be using these headphones because I don't know if I'm afraid that I'll be the only one that hears the audio for the good documentary. I have to figure out how to really use. So let me just say forget that. I have to figure that out on a later date on a different video. So this one is called The Finish, episode 6 of the Mr. McMahon documentary. We've already did Fair Use 1 through 4 is already up on the YouTube channel on the Mick and Mike Love podcast. Episode 5 I have already recorded and we will be out maybe the next day or two. I might put it up, and I just decided to go ahead and get down with episode 6 tonight, and it is called The Finish. Take it away, Vince.
And sometimes they work against me. I have one computer talking to you right now, and there's another one going on with me thinking something completely different. And then there's a third one sometimes. If I were to tap into it, I could. And so it's difficult for me sometimes to pay attention to things. It's bothered me through the years because all I wanted to be was just normal. I wanted to fit in. But I deal with it because that's who you are. Just deal with it, Vince. Doesn't matter what you want to be this way or you want to be that way. Here's where you are. You're different. Be different. And, the expression of fuck the world. So that's where I am now.
What's the other brain thinking about now?
Something having a lot of fun, and it is involving sex.
Uh, that was a really weird guy. He's sitting in a room with a guy who asked him, "What are you thinking about?" Something very fun. It's involving sex. But I guess we all have our quirks, and you have to notice a lot of very rich people are very weird. Um, so if anybody ever calls you weird, you can say that their favorite rapper is weird. Um, the president of the United States right now is weird than a motherfucker. Yeah. is Weirdness is something that I think everybody has in them naturally. Now this dude, it pretty much takes the cake because I don't have much of an attention span, so I was feeling him there. But this dude giving 80 a hell of a shove. Talk about he's thinking about doing something very fun, something sexual. Okay, Vince. But you did ask the man what he was thinking, though, so I guess you can kind of get. Go ahead, you freaky ass. Episode 6 to finish. Fair use again. In January 2024, Vince McMahon resigned from WWC after alleged sexual misconduct involving trafficking.
WrestleMania. Every year. Shut up!
Coming out of the Attitude Era and into the 2000s, Vince McMahon was still a hugely important on screen character for the company. But without Austin, they were always in search of something for him to do. And now it is time for the Battle of the Billionaires Hair versus Hair match.
This is very funny because I was just speaking about how weird the president is now, but former President Donald Trump is getting ready to wrestle Vince McMahon in WrestleMania 2007. Where was it in 2007? Could it have been in my hometown of Detroit down in Ford Field? Maybe no, maybe not. Is somebody requesting to join me? Let me see. Let me see. Ask Glam Decor with Piper. Go live with Glam Decor. Hey, you still there? Are you still trying to go live? Are you still trying to come with me? I'm trying to accept it.
Oh, I wasn't. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to go live.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's okay. I just wanted to comment. I would love to see Donald Trump wrestle.
I mean, we can watch it a little later tonight. It's on the WWE network,
Oh, okay.
so
Oh wow.
I can
Wow.
come up there and show it, but we can watch it a little bit
Well,
later.
okay. I can't wait. Thanks. Bye.
All right, see you later. See, that's the thing. That's kind of how why I like going live on Instagram while I'm recording because people can actually. Um, I don't know how to get rid of you.
Right. I don't either.
I,
Let's see.
let me see. Where are you?
Oh,
Oh
uh-oh.
no, you're back. Hold on. Uh, maybe I can. No, I don't know how to get rid of you.
Okay. Well, I'll go out and come back.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Now I believe this was it may have been in Detroit. You know, Donald Trump actually hosted a couple WrestleManias in his Atlantic City casinos. I believe he hosted 4 and 5. Well, it was a while ago. As I could hear my family upstairs laughing. All right. Let me let's continue on. Uh-oh.
Look at that man right there, Donald Trump. So many celebrities come into our business and have a blast. And Donald was one of them. Donald had always been a fan. So I went to Donald and I said, I have this idea. What if we each have a wrestler that represents us at WrestleMania? And if Donald Trump loses, then I shave his head. Of course, if I lose, same thing. The Donald Trump Vince McMahon Battle of the Billionaires feud, it was the biggest pay-per-view audience in the history of pro wrestling pay-per-view. It was a giant.
All right, hold on a second, Dave. It was funny because they were showing slides of what each guy would look like bald, and they don't both. They can't pull it off. Caught like the sports doc. These two gentlemen need hair. Go ahead. This is David Masser of the Wrestling Observer. Now you can you can see this documentary on Netflix. This is episode 6 of the Mr. McMahon documentary. Continue on, Mr. Masser.
I was entertained by Trump when he was on the show. Come on up here. His ability to speak to wrestling fans was excellent.
To me, they look like a very smart group of people.
He was kind of perfect for the role.
Just show the picture of Donald Trump slapping the shit out of Vince McMahon.
Persona is much closer to that of
This
a
Bob
wrestler
Costas.
than to a statesman.
Oh, throw him the hell out of here. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Our fingerprints are on so many things in the world. Politics, absolutely, my God. Why wouldn't you want to be like WWE?
I can do whatever the hell I want.
I have the right to do whatever I want as president.
This is what we do. We present larger than life characters making outlandish statements that make people go, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
Donald Trump is an example of what seems to be a kind of pro-wrestlingification of American politics and American society.
If you're going to look at the influence of Vince McMahon and pro wrestling on culture, man, we elected a president that was playing a pro wrestler on TV. I don't know if it's Trump being Trump or he learned from wrestling, but I see similarities between Trump and Vince McMahon.
Now they're showing where Donald Trump, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Bobby Lashley shaved Vince's head. They first had looked like a pair of master clippers by Andis. You need to add this masters, boy. They clean you up real good. I got a pair of them upstairs, and now they just piling shaving cream on top of him while he's looking crazy as hell. Oh my god! I recommend y'all watch this because some of the sites on here is hilarious.
He is the best WWE personality ever. But after the Attitude Era, like Mr. McMahon was a more selectively used character.
Instagram, can y'all hear?
During the Ruthless Aggression era, we're always trying to pitch Vince to have a midlife crisis and become crazy or something like that. But Vince wanted to go another way, which is like, well, what if someone kills me? I'm like,
Brian
okay.
Gortz.
So he cut a very cryptic, weird, un-Mr. McMahon-like promo in the ring, and then made this long walk backstage, passing all the talents, and then got into his limo, paused. Vince is very big on pauses for dramatic effect. Then the limo explodes.
The edit was perfect. And many individuals called, the office has been okay.
Vince really wanted to treat it like real life. The website was reporting it was real, and the announcers were somber. And in fact, from what I've heard, Donald Trump called up Vince's office to make sure Vince was okay. So that became a very controversial storyline. But
Yeah, I remember when he faked his death, and I didn't really think it was. He didn't really have me fooled just by the way he walked to the ring and how somber he was really acting. I think if somebody's trying to kill you, I don't think you really try to be on national TV like that, talking about it. But like he said, that edit was perfect as he got in, and then the limo explodes. Oh my god. Ooh, this was pretty good, but this is how crazy some of these storylines in wrestling can be. A dude actually faked his own death. I'm not really one to play with God like that. I will not fake my own death. I don't believe, no matter how famous I may get, that's something that I'm not going to do. That's all the way wild. Go ahead, Brian.
certain tragic circumstances in real life happened that forced us to stop that storyline.
Good evening. Tonight's storyline was to have been the alleged demise of my character, Mr. McMahon. However, in reality, WWE superstar Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their son Daniel are dead. Chris Benoit was thought of an excellent in-ring performer.
He's done everything in this business. He's been a world champion. He's one of the greatest of all time.
And as far as we knew, a great guy.
When a wrestler passes away, Raw the next night would become like a tribute to that individual. So we did one.
I think I first saw Chris Benoit wrestling for Vern Gagne in the AWA. Um, maybe that's where I first saw him, or maybe I had first seen him in ECW. But he'd been around at this point a minute. Was trained by Bret Hart's father in a dungeon in Montreal. Was called the Canadian Crippler, and this was 2007 or 2008. Do I need to turn up the? I need to turn it up. Is it that low? The microphone ain't catching it. The microphone ain't catching it. Well, the microphone is plugged. I keep forgetting y'all not watching it on YouTube, so you wouldn't hear the mic. Let me see if I can figure out how to turn it up and turn up the volume. Let's see how that does right there. Okay. Oh, they turned up a little bit. Let's see.
For Chris that night.
Tonight will be a tribute to Chris Benoit.
And then while that show was airing, we started to get the details of what had actually happened and what Chris had done.
There is new information tonight in the death of pro wrestler Chris Benoit.
Mind you, in this documentary, this was the first time they've talked about Chris Benoit since 2007 because Chris Benoit murdered his wife. See, they didn't know at first. He murdered his wife and his son before hanging himself. And now they really don't even speak on him. It's like almost like he never existed. It's a very sad story. Continue on.
Authorities in Georgia say it was no accident.
Chris Benoit strangled his wife and smothered their 7-year-old son, and then hanged himself in their home.
When the instance with Chris Benoit happened, the murder-suicide, that rocked the very
It's
foundation.
John Cena.
The Benoit tragedy put McMahon and his WWE back under the microscope. Allegations of steroid and drug abuse.
Speculation began that roid rage might have been behind what happened that fateful weekend.
They were just pinning this whole thing on steroids. All I know is like steroids generally don't make you kill your whole family and do all that kind of stuff. There is no correlation between taking steroids and what happened to Chris Benoit. Human beings are flawed. Chris went nuts. It happens in every form of life and everything. So that's the only thing I can take away from it.
I
Now getting ready to speak his former WWE Tough Enough runner-up, Christopher Nowitzki, who is a Harvard graduate. I believe he played football for Harvard. He's going to speak on CTE. If you don't know what CTE is, it's a concussion syndrome pretty much that a lot of professional football players and some professional wrestlers or a lot of boxers end up with after you've been concussed so many times. They think it's the reason Junior Seau murdered himself. Will Smith did the movie about it. You know, back then it wasn't as much known about CTE. But Christopher Nowitzki, like I said, is a Harvard graduate that got a concussion and started studying the brain. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about it.
Was first a fan of Chris Benoit, and then I got to meet him when I started wrestling. I debuted in 2002.
And making his way to the ring, Christopher Nowitzki.
A Harvard graduate. This guy's great, JR.
But about a year later, I got a concussion that ended my career. Everyone back in 2003, 2004 thought concussions were bullshit and that I was just weak. And so this idea started that
if you saw the bump he took, because he took a bump. He took a drop kick, it looked like from Rey Mysterio Jr., and then somebody, I couldn't tell who it was, landed on his head. And you thought he was just selling, but no, he was in some legitimate pain. That shit looked rough. Oof.
You know what, I'm going to dig in more to this concussion research and try to take a stab at changing the world's culture on concussions. When I heard about Chris Benoit, I was
that little boy looks just like him.
Based on the way he wrestled, that he probably had CTE. CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's a degenerative brain disease caused by repetitive hits to the head. We see problems with emotion.
I'm glad Christopher was able to explain it to y'all who might not have known what it was a little bit better than I could, but I didn't go to Harvard. I went to Waterford High School where I barely graduated. Barely. All right. A high school, a public high school. Go ahead, Chris, with your smart ass.
Behavior, disinhibition, aggression, and depression. And symptoms get worse over time as your brain is essentially rotting away. But in 2007, no one had ever heard of CTE. I saw Vince McMahon go on a Today Show and give his explanation for what he thought happened.
There was no way of telling this man was a monster.
He framed it as we didn't know what kind of monster Chris was. And I thought that it was the disease that was the monster, it wasn't Chris. So I ended up calling Chris's father, and he, through tears, agreed to let us study his brain.
A doctor who studied tissue from Benoit's brain says the
Anderson
wrestler
Cooper
suffered extensive brain damage from his years in the ring.
And they went on to say that Benoit's brain was the worst they'd ever seen.
We contacted World Wrestling Entertainment for a response. They sent along a statement saying the analysis that concussions might have led to Benoit's murderous rampage was speculative, and went on to say, we respect the desire of that father to do whatever he can to find some explanation.
This doctor came up with this ridiculous statement of, okay, here's why Chris Benoit did this. You know, some sort of trauma to his head, and things were shown where Chris would dive off the rope and hit someone from his head. That's complete work.
When somebody grabs your wrist real lightly and they twist it, I go, it hurts.
He's selling.
Oh my God, you're killing me. That's a work.
It looks like there's damage, and there's not. We know what we're doing. We don't hurt each other.
But see,
I worked for a long time. I got dropped.
now see, they showed a couple times. Now he's coming from the top rope and dropping his head. But they showed a couple times where he was in the ring and he got threw around, and the moves to me looked botched. And they showed it more than once. Now, he's been wrestling a long time, and these guys do make mistakes. So this could have happened to him a few times. It probably shouldn't happen quite as much when you're in the WWE, because these are your better wrestlers in the country or in the world, and they probably do know how to work a little bit better. But like I said, accidents happen. Now, when you say his flying headbutt is just a work, maybe, but he can make a couple of mistakes a couple times and hit his head more than once, harder than you would think. And after you've had one or two concussions, it don't take that much for you to get concussed again.
I got concussed there. But other than that, I can't remember having too many concussions in the business of pro wrestling. And my take on that has always been, if you were just wrestling and you got a bunch of concussions, you're probably doing something wrong. I'm not a CTE guy. Just don't believe in it.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the slides on Chris Benoit's brain. Like, he had CTE. Like, there's no question about that.
That was Steve Austin, who pretty much doubted CTE. And Steve Austin was a collegiate football player. And like I said, he was a collegiate football player. And he wrestled for a long time. And I guess he's fortunate, that he didn't have them type of mistakes. But he's had other mistakes because he has bad knees. Shit happens. I believe it's CTE because I know we'll play a football, they pass and collide with somebody. at full speed as hard as you can do to your body. Um, so I have to agree with Mr. Lewinsky on this one, even though I understand what Stone Cold is saying, because, well, shit, it didn't happen to me. And it probably didn't happen to a lot of people, but it happened to Chris. Okay, and it happens to a lot of NFL players. That's why you can barely breathe on a quarterback anymore, because they're worried about the head injuries such as CTE and other head and neck injuries and other injuries, period.
CTE is a disease you can see very clearly under a microscope, but everybody has fought us on this. The NFL's fought us on this. The NHL is still fighting us on this. FIFA's fighting us. Everybody is trying to fight us. So I was actually surprised when I got a call from Vince McMahon saying he wanted to help.
Chris was knocking WWE.
I think there was something worth investigating.
I called him and said, what are you doing? I said, look, we'll help you out if you can come up with research that's honest, because we would like to know more about it ourselves.
And that was the beginning of a wholesale change in their approach to this. They invited me in to come start teaching the wrestlers
He's
about what
doing
I knew about
graphs and
concussions
stuff
and
now.
CTE.
There were a couple of in-ring moves that we stopped doing. We stopped hitting each other over the head with folding up chairs.
I have to admit, initially I was
Mark
pissed.
Calloway.
Like, how are you going to take away the chair shot? It's a staple of our industry. I'm an old school guy. We use chairs to help tell our story.
Yeah, the chair shots are a part of wrestling. And honestly, that's really how I first learned how to defend myself. Watching wrestling as a very small child, I was bullied a little bit. Um, but once I hit a couple people with chairs, people left me the fuck alone. If you being bullied, all you gotta do is whoop somebody's ass in front of a lot of people, one or two good times, and people will leave you the fuck alone. Let me stop, because I grew up in a different era. Being bullied was just a part of childhood, but now it's a little bit more serious. So maybe I should make jokes about it. Um, so they stopped using the chair shots amongst other things, but I was saying that to really just to say that ever since I was a little kid, I've been seeing people get blasted in the back or in the head with a chair, with them steel chairs. Now they might be gimmicked or worked, but it's still sometimes a steel chair.
It's made a call. Now there's no more chair shots to the head. I get it. The company is a publicly traded company now. When you're trying to market yourself to larger advertisers, the safety and well-being of your athletes and your performers is a priority. So it was, again, what was best for business.
Do you think the motivation is a care for wrestlers, or is it good for business, or something?
It's okay. I don't know which. I couldn't tell you what the biggest motivation is, but it's an acknowledgement that it's better for wrestlers and it's good for business, right? And that's what's most important, is that all the interests align and they're doing the right thing.
What happened in the aftermath of the Chris Benoit situation is that there was really a lot of negative publicity.
It's not real, but the pain is. Professional wrestlers have suffered broken necks and spilled gallons of blood in the ring. Many turn to performance-enhancing drugs and painkillers as they spend 200-plus days on the road. And many don't make it past their 40th birthdays.
Wrestlers were dying young, and it was very often a combination.
We go back to how they say it's not real. It's real physical contact. It is predetermined. but the physicality in it is very real, and sometimes these guys get very stiff with each other. And like you said, they bleed. When a wrestler bleeds, is real. It's gimmicked the way they do it, but that's really their blood. Uh, when they take certain bumps, these guys really hurt. Like a body slam really hurts. Like it hurts for real. Do they learn how to fall? Sure. But it's still very, very physical. So I would call it scripted or predetermined. I wouldn't really call these injuries fake. As you notice, Chris Benoit ended up with CTE. There's nothing fake about CTE. And around this time, they're going to talk about a lot of the wrestlers that died and died very young. Before they're 40 years old, they're dying. Go ahead.
Drugs and steroids. And wrestlers are dying. It didn't hurt the popularity of wrestling because the fans saw them as deaths of television characters. They didn't see it as like a husband.
Kurt Hennig died at 44.
With 3 kids.
The British Bulldog died at 39.
And he's dead.
Test died at Andrew Martin died at 33.
They didn't care. But they didn't seem to care. Give us the next guy. At first, Vince McMahon was totally defiant, like he's always going to be. All the deaths, he would go, this has nothing to do with us. It's their choice.
Do you have a reason why these people would be dying under the age of 45?
Are you indicating that's my responsibility? These people
Can you still see me on Instagram?
I'm asking you if it's in any way, shape, or form falls on your shoulders.
So I was set to have this interview with the award-winning Arnold Entertainer. And when someone comes at me, whether it's a member of the media or,
I think so.
or otherwise, I can't help but be defensive and then be offensive. I would accept no responsibility whatsoever for their untimely deaths, none whatsoever. As far as you've got a look on your face like,
yeah,
Vince, how can you possibly say that?
Well, but none whatsoever. I mean, they wrestled for you. They were part of your organization. They worked a couple of hundred nights a year for you. They lived this lifestyle.
Oh, God, you can't believe. You see that look? I mean, well, how can you possibly say that? When you look back at just about all of those performers who passed away, you know, they use these prescription drugs as recreation. Many of them just took these pills because it made them feel good, you know, and when you mix that with steroids or something else that's an upper, your heart doesn't know which way to go. And it's a horrible cocktail. And that's what happened.
Found dead in their hotel room. That was the typical scenario. Why isn't these things page 1?
Yeah, they forgot to mention Brian Pillman, who I believe was 35 when he died, who I think died way before any of these guys. Chris Benoit had just turned 40 when he killed himself. Vince said he didn't want to take responsibility for it, and I don't believe he should get all the responsibility for it because, like he said, these were young men, but these were adults who decided to take all of the drugs and they wanted to live the lifestyle that Vince was providing. They knew before they signed the contract that they would be gone from home more than 200 days. So that's pretty much the career you chose. No, I'm sad that these guys are going too because I enjoy watching a lot of these guys. But Vince said he wouldn't take no responsibility. I don't know about no responsibility, but for the most part, I think it was on these, unfortunately, on these men. Because they could have left, and a lot of these guys were in the business a long time before they even started working for Vince. So a lot of these guys pretty much knew what it was. So I can see why he's like, I will take no responsibility, but you gotta take some of that responsibility, Vince. because these dudes did help make you a billionaire.
Millions of kids worship these guys, and they're dropping dead.
Sherry
Where's
Martel.
the news?
Forgot about Sherry.
Again, McMahon seemed to escape that.
They did get their bad publicity off of it, but not that much because people will just go, we don't want to waste our time, investigating this fake thing. But as far as WWE goes, was this kind of a turning point? In hindsight, I would say yes. That did lead to a lot of major changes in wrestling. More vigilant monitoring of concussions, more vigilant monitoring of drug abuse. They agreed to pay for rehab to anyone under contract, even after they're gone with the company. The schedule was reduced. Instead of going 10 days on and 3 days off, it was 4 days on and 3 days off. And it's even better now. The changes have been gigantic.
WrestleMania 30. Up until that point, I'd never lost at WrestleMania. I think I was 21-0. It's a huge part of the attraction of WrestleMania. The amazing undefeated streak continues. So I was going to win. The streak was going to stay intact.
Now they talk about Mark Calloway, also known as The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. He did go 21-0 in WrestleMania before losing to Brock Lesnar, the former UFC heavyweight champion as well. So Brock Lesnar can fight for real. I want you guys to kind of listen how he thought going into the day that the streak was supposed to continue. That was the script, but we'll find out a little bit more what happened.
But that day, Vince walks in my dressing room and he said, Mark, I think we're going to put Brock over tonight.
It was a last minute decision. Mark wasn't prepared for it. I think he was in some sort of a psychological shock.
About 5-10 minutes into that match, I get concussed.
Mm.
The match went on 25 minutes or so.
Yeah, you can see. Oh, you can see the look in his eyes right here. It's a still shot of me pausing the video right here, where you can see the glazed look in his eye. He took a belly to back suplex and he kind of landed on his head. Woo wee!
Yeah, to this day, recall being in that match.
See where Mark was concussed.
Ooh, he went another 25 minutes.
I think Mark just didn't remember any of that because it was so traumatic for him.
The look on everybody's face when Brock hooks his leg and actually pins him. Everybody's like, guys should see the way the audience reacts to Taker losing in WrestleMania.
They took me to the hospital, and Vince left WrestleMania to go to the hospital. He was there with my wife, consoling her. I never thought about getting hurt. Even after I got hurt, I didn't think about getting hurt. Only thing you think about is getting well so you can get back to work. I've had 18 different surgeries. I walk with a limp. I wake up some mornings and can't get out of bed, but there's nothing that I would change. I love it. And if I could.
When you look at the size of Mark is 6'9" and over 300 pounds. Mark's wrestling style also included some very athletic feats. Mark can get a running start, jump, clear the ropes, and dive on top of you. it just started to get to him, especially as he started to get older. That athleticism starts to go away. Although he was still a very good athlete for his size and his age. Um, and you just can't take the pounding that you used to, especially the way because throwing a 300-pound body around like he used to do it, he used to tightrope walk the rope. He used to, like I said, would jump over the ropes to clear him to jump on top of you. Throwing 300 pounds around like that is rough on your joints, rough on your knees. I'm not saying he was overweight at all because he was tall, but he was still very heavy, doing some things that smaller people do. And then he started to get older and do it. It had to be killer on his body.
Still do it, I'd still be doing it.
We, as the wrestlers,
He said if he can still do it, he'd
sometimes
still
think
be
we're
doing it.
indestructible. That's just the way it is. It's just part of who we are.
Booker T.
But
Hoffman.
on the other hand, this next generation of wrestlers, I do not want to see them in the same situation as a bunch of the guys that came before them.
Cody Rhodes is
come
the
into
current
WWE in
WWE
2007.
champion.
They were spinning out of Chris Benoit's terrible tragedy. And out of that, the wellness policy really becomes a huge part of the company.
First, we're instituting a new drug policy.
Behind the scenes, I came into a very clean WWE. And it was also very clean on air in terms of we're heading towards a TV PG era. What motivated Vince to switch the rating from TV 14 to TV PG was the 50,000 foot perspective of advertisers, the lewd and kind of really out there angles that were going on in the ruthless aggression era. Weren't going to cut it with sponsors.
Okay, here are the stats and things.
And Vince is a businessman. He's the chairman of the board. He wants to make the company as much money as possible.
As soon as you become a publicly traded company, the new women and the ass shots and all the others, the Kiss My Ass Club, where he had people kissing his bare ass on TV, all that had to go. Because Pringles wasn't going to sponsor you. Pringles salt, vinegar, and ass chips by the WWE. I slay me. Go ahead.
Possible.
Vince was trying to reach bigger, get more families, more kids.
We made that turn.
Going back to
and
the
it has
kids,
paid off, literally and figuratively, in dividends.
The stock shot up eventually, and sponsorship deals became, much more lucrative. But a lot of your Attitude Era ruthless aggression audiences would be like, "This is the Muppet Show." In fact, it literally was the Muppet Show. We had the Muppets guest host one time. All those things that led WWE to be your special secret guilty pleasure now was being taken away, and that left a bad taste in people's mouths.
I do what's right for each and every one of you from a business perspective. I'm long-term oriented, and you don't even understand what I'm doing. But in time, you will.
When the decision was made to go PG, certain fans would complain on social media, but times change, and views change, and you adapt with it. So they toned down.
This is a tag team match.
The timing of the women's evolution coincided with the PG era shift. The portrayal of women in the industry was progressing and maturing.
It's the perfect combination of beauty and power.
And the capabilities of the women that were coming into the...
Now, as I said before, the women in wrestling from the 80s till now, let's say the Attitude Era, were basically a bunch of kind of athletic models. This era, while they're still very pretty and a lot prettier than they were in the 80s, are more of a they're better in ring performers. Like some of them are. Some of these girls are really good in the ring. I mean, really good. They do things very well, and and I think women's wrestling is now better than it's ever been. And they started to portray them in a little bit more respectful way, even though they are still good looking girls. Um, they don't always have their titties out, or they don't have their asses out like that. You know, they're pretty much for the most part covered up. Go ahead.
Industry was certainly far more athletic than those that
Mhm.
preceded them.
The women's evolution was really a movement started by our fans.
Fans took to social media with the hashtag Give Divas a Chance, upset over unequal screen time for female wrestlers.
Vince was pretty set in his ways by this point, so it was very hard for him to change.
I think Vince was not sure, but ultimately Vince is about giving the fans what they want. And when the fans wanted us to do more action in the ring and they liked what they were getting from us, he went with it. Someone that got really behind us was Stephanie. You know, Stephanie saw us doing our thing out there and she really pushed for the women to take it to another level.
Stephanie McMahon had been a television character for a long, long time, but behind the scenes, she became kind of like a public face of the company, chief brand officer, you know, so that was her role. And Paul Levesque, Triple H.
She was the chief brand officer, but she is a lot like Vince. They even look an awful lot like when you see her now, she looked like a young Vince. And her husband Paul Levesque is actually pretty much running the company now. But Stephanie is really like if Vince didn't sell the company, Stephanie would have actually got the company instead of Shane because she is more. I think she's closer to Vince. She's the girl, and you know how fathers are with their daughters, and you know, and her and Vince kind of think the same. She ain't as out there as Vince, but they're kind of on the same page a lot of the time.
Was getting more and more influence on the creative side, helping Vince, you know, kind of like number two.
And where was Shane at that point?
Shane was kind of out, you know, for the most part.
So 2016, I was gone 6 or 7 years at that point. You know, off camera, off everything. And got a call. So it's my dad. He says, "Hey, I have an idea." And it's like, okay. At the time, there was a storyline where my dad was going to give a very big accolade from my grandfather to my sister, who was completely undeserving storyline wise.
Oh, deserves this award as much as you.
And then all of a sudden, my music hits. The place goes crazy. And still to this day, you know, I'm getting goosebumps under my jacket right now thinking about it.
Shane comes to the ring with Jordans on and like a $10,000 suit. I mean, I'm laughing, but it looks dope. He wrestles in some of the best gym shoes. He got to be a sneakerhead. His gym shoe game is impeccable. Go ahead, Shane O'Mac. And this is him coming back into the company. Because like he said, he had been gone a long time, and we cover why he was gone in the last episode. YouTube, well, you will see it by the time this comes out. But Instagram, unless you watch the documentary yourself, you haven't seen it. it's I haven't even released it on YouTube yet. My reaction to it.
It was so rewarding to have an adulation that long and that loud when you return to something you love. So my dad looking at me, and then he has pride. I could see it in his eyes. Now I'm getting choked up looking at that. My sister, she's starting to tear up because, again, we're all back together. It was a huge moment. And eventually what came out was something really cool. You and your husband, Triple H, have been really running this company into the ground. I want control of Monday Night Raw. And then that led to my dad making a match. One match, one night, an opponent of my choosing. I'll tell you where and when and who. So, what about it, Shano? Huh? Everybody's happy to see Shano there. You got your match. You're on. Good, because I have one last opportunity to have a fucking beating, okay? And the place and the time is going to be WrestleMania. And your opponent, The Undertaker. Welcome back, Shano. And getting to that moment now of WrestleMania 32.
Here comes the money.
I've been ringing 7 years. And
I couldn't tell which shoes he had on that time, but like I said, he wrestles in some of the coolest gym shoes. I still can't really tell. But this is when this story gets kind of interesting and kind of real. Take it away.
imagine walking out and not just a small room, but a stadium, the sea of people. That's euphoric. But the greatest thing was about 10 minutes prior to me going out, my boys were backstage and was like, "You guys want to come out with me?" Like, what? Like, are you serious?
Yeah, look who's out here with Shano back.
My boys were doing my stuff and they're doing the arm twist. I go, look at these little dudes. And then I have to snap out of this because I'm about to throw down with one of the best of them ever. The Undertaker's bong hits.
It was really cool to see him and his kids coming out to the ring with him, and like he said, they run to the ring like him. He has one of the best entrances, I think. Just how hype he be, and then he runs to the ring. He is a very, very good athlete. He's built like an NFL linebacker, as you've heard some people say, and he throws his body around like he weighs 150 pounds. Go ahead, Shane O'Mac.
The rest is history.
I can only imagine being the son of Vince McMahon. It seemed like Shane was always trying to prove something to his dad all the time, even if it meant doing some of the most death-defying, feats we've seen in this business.
In a bad way here.
Obviously when you're performing, you want that adulation that you did a good job, especially, from my father. And I think that's why I've always just tried to do a little bit extra, in the ring.
This one's bad for turning.
Oh.
One time, I had a match with Kurt Angle. It was more of a hardcore match. Kurt was famous, being an Olympian, for suplexes. He picked me up and suplexed me. I was supposed to go through that glass. I hit that glass. It was like, and straight down on my noggin.
He probably had a concussion.
I was like, "Are you an Olympic wuss?" I said, "I can't believe you came and throw me through that thing. You suck." All of a sudden,
Then he throws him through some glass.
and then it took 3 going out. Suplex 1, hit the glass, didn't do anything. Second one, same thing. And then finally, Kurt threw me through the third one.
I felt for Shane that night. He took it like a champ, just trying to prove something to his dad.
I think Shane wanted to be different. He wanted to earn his stripes, so to speak, in every way. He would take chances that no one else would take. He did some crazy things no one else would do. He knew that.
Yeah, he would dive from way up, kind of like he did a lot of stuff that New Jack would do. And before New Jack died, he was blind in one eye. He had all kinds of just shit wrong with him. He had short-term memory loss. From taking dives like this, and just to get accolation from your dad, really,
Something that was
I do some risky things. But, if it's in your blood, in my view, it's an acceptable risk. I've done it happily to entertain and to push myself as well. And of course, always looking for that pat on the back from my dad.
he's stuck at WrestleMania.
Says your legacy mania, Shane. Yes.
I know that he's always wanted me to respect him and things of that nature.
Yeah, he just took a nasty bump off the top of the Hell in a Cell, with elbow first into the announcer's table. Of course, the Undertaker moved, and Shane took all of that bump, boy.
So the shoulder and the way to go. Maybe there should have been. My dad, he never said it to me, and that's okay. But I've always been proud of Shane for what he's done, what he attempts to do, because he gives it his all. I'm very proud of Shane in that match.
You remember seeing your dad after?
I got a hug that night. Yeah, got a hug that night. It's very emotional.
If you look at this hug, when Vince looked at him, he looked very proud. But damn, do you have to go through all that to make a parent proud? I guess some fathers are tougher than others.
Emotional return.
Shane got emotional and said, "That's all I ever wanted was your respect." So that was a very personal moment.
I got a pat on the back. Yeah. Got that one.
Was that hard to come by?
Very. Had to earn that one. Guess I did.
You hear people say this a lot in our business about Vince, like he's almost like a father to me.
We have a family. Not the McMahon family. We have a much broader family. And in terms of a family type thing, I'm the patriarch.
He's had the role in my life of a father figure.
Our relationship, he was like a father figure to me.
I have a father-son relationship with Vince.
I mean, I'd honestly take a bullet for that man.
Wow, Mark. See, I didn't know these guys really felt. I don't know how they feel about him today with all the allegations out, but these guys. This is a big guy getting really emotional about how he feels about Vince. He had to kind of wipe away a tear. This is Mark Holloway, the Undertaker, big old Undertaker. Talks about Vince and he has to wipe away a tear. Looks at him as a father. John Cena said he has a father-son relationship with Vince, and John Cena had his dad. John Cena's dad is. You can see him on the internet talking about John Cena now, and they're still, close. Wow, this is it's amazing how these guys felt about Vince.
There's no doubt that Vince is the father figure of the company. And all the stars in WWE are desperate for Vince's approval, including his own kids. If you look at Shane, when he came back, he was only
Are
really
those
being
Hirachis?
used as in-ring talent. But it seemed like he was trying to work his way back into Vince's good graces, into a potential role as a successor in WWE.
At some point, did I envision myself being next in line to do certain things? Sure, from the standpoint of I just want to continue the family business.
I came back to ensure the future, not only for my kids, but for your daughters and eventually their kids and their kids' kids, etc., etc. That's why I returned to the WWE.
He wanted to be the next McMahon, and he always figured he would be. And then it didn't happen. Most people will say it was because Stephanie was better at it than he was.
One
Maybe
thing
from a
that Shane
corporate
does
level.
have over me is likability. But business is not run by popularity, and I'm just
Stephanie, she's just like her dad. She's very strong.
Tony Atlas.
Shane is nice. And in the wrestling world, if you're a boss and you're nice, once the people see that niceness, they will try to take advantage of you.
A lot of people will say that that's true of AEW's Tony Khan, how a lot of his talent takes advantage of him because he's a good guy. He's friendly and he has a friendly work environment there. But so a lot of old school guys in wrestling say this. Like some of these guys, especially back when Tony Atlas was say in his prime, some of these wrestling promoters and bookers were not nice people. They're like not at all. And the first thing he said about Shane is he's nice. I don't think that at the top of that business, I don't really think it's for nice people because I think it's too cutthroat. Maybe not so much now. Maybe it's a little bit easier now. But as like Shane was coming up, no, you couldn't be nice like that.
With Stephanie, you can't take advantage of that woman. You just know it right off the bat.
what it means to be a success. Shane, how would you? You're nothing more than a quitter. Now get the hell out of my ring.
Through the 2010s and leading up to the 2020s, Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H were the three most powerful people inside WWE. And there were a lot of huge successes during this period of time. There was the WWE Network,
24/7 streaming service, live content,
which was revolutionary in its way. They were on the cutting edge of a lot of social media stuff. The TV rights deals were going up and up, which culminated in the giant deal with Peacock. Linda McMahon joins Donald Trump's cabinet, heading the Small Business Administration. There was a competition started up. In 2019, AEW Wrestling launched. One of the big stars and vice presidents was Cody Rhodes, who
The
3 years
WWE
later
champion
came
now.
back to WWE.
Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. And the stock price just kept going up and up. It certainly doesn't have the energy or the vitality that it seemed to in the 80s.
Yeah, there is. I wouldn't even call AEW really competition to the WWE right now, but at least there is an alternative. It's something else to watch. It's somewhere else for these guys to work. Because I don't know if they would do anything with Chris Jericho or Daniel Bryan or what. I don't know where he's going by now in the WWE anymore. But they're able to have careers at AEW. I don't get to watch AEW that much, although I like the show. Like I said, at least it gives me something else on the mainstream to watch. Um, they have a good rapport with New Japan. They bought out Ring of Honor, so you know maybe they'll be like the new National Wrestling Alliance. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But as of right now, I don't think they're really competition in the WWE. They're just the alternative, and maybe they should try to keep it that way. Maybe they shouldn't really go in competition with the WWE. Maybe they should do their own thing, and maybe they'll be successful that way.
And especially not during the Attitude Era. But Vince, he keeps creating new stars who become huge faces of the company.
This man, Roman Reigns, has become a mainstream star.
Roman Reigns, everybody!
Because of the success during this period of time, it was hard to imagine Vince ever stepping down, but if he were ever going to leave, it seemed clear at the time that it was Stephanie McMahon and Triple H who were in position to succeed him in running the company.
I think as far as succession, you don't rule out Shane or Stephanie, obviously, but it was my understanding that Hunter was supposed to be the individual. I don't know. That's the upper level stuff that I couldn't even imagine.
There are a lot of plans in terms of succession, but it depends on where I am in terms of the ability to contribute.
Welcome to night 2 of WrestleMania, 70,000 plus once again.
You ever see yourself taking a step back?
Taking a step back.
Retiring.
Do I ever see myself retiring? No, I don't see myself ever retiring. I never understood why people stop growing. When you stop growing, you die. Some people want to retire one day. What are you going to do when you retire? I have no sympathy for people like that. So, go die.
Mr. McMahon
Go die.
has entered the ring.
Think you'll ever retire?
No. Vince will never retire.
Do I think Vince will ever stop? No. I don't think he'll ever
What's
stop
up, cousin?
because he loves it. It's not work to him.
I can't believe McMahon is still twisting at WrestleMania. He's finally up. He's really trying to get away. What are these things?
Yeah, it's the worst bump ever.
Right, with Vince McMahon not being the main dude in the WWE, as long as he has breath in his lungs.
What I think that would take for Vince to retire, a nuclear bomb exploding.
Now they go after Booker T says that we go into June 2022. Where?
wrestling world rocked by the headline hitting today. The WWE founder and CEO Vince McMahon is stepping down as chairman and CEO.
The Wall Street Journal reporting McMahon paid a former employee who he allegedly had an affair with $3 million to keep her quiet.
Started with a tip, and the tip was that the board of WWE had received an anonymous email alleging that Vince McMahon had basically kept quiet an affair with an employee of the company, then covered it up.
The Journal reports, according to an email sent to WWE board members, McMahon initially hired the woman at a salary of $100,000, but increased it to $200,000 after beginning a sexual relationship with her.
The person who wrote the email portrayed it as a relationship where McMahon was taking advantage of someone and was conducting a consensual affair, but the power was clearly with the guy who was the CEO.
How consensual?
Okay, they didn't say the girl's name on here. I don't know if they do or not. And I know the girl's name, but I don't think I'm going to say it if they don't say it. I guess they're alleging that he gave her $3 million to keep quiet what they were doing, and allegedly what he was making her do with other people, other talent, other executives of the company. And amid these allegations, in June 2022, Vince decided to call it quits.
Is it when it's your boss? There's always that boss power, especially when it's Vince.
The separation agreement prevents the former employee from discussing her relationship with Mr. McMahon or disparaging him in any way.
Beyond the NDAs themselves, we encountered this kind of
Joe
culture of
Palazzo,
secrecy.
Wall Street Journal.
McMahon exerts such power. He has such influence over people's careers that people are very reluctant to speak because they were afraid of retaliation.
My expectation was Vince was going to just go after those reporters. Because if he had any kind of a defense, he'd have gone after the reporter's credibility. And he never touched him. That shocked me. That is not Vince.
McMahon says in part, "I've pledged my complete cooperation to the investigation by the special committee, and I will do everything possible to support the investigation."
He is staying in front of the cameras. He's expected to be on SmackDown later on tonight. Jake?
Of course he is.
And of course he was. This is him. I guess the first time he publicly reacted to some of these allegations on SmackDown that night, as the reporters just commentated on. Let's see what he says. Let's see the reaction he gets.
Vince resigned as CEO, but continued on the board of directors and continued to run creative. When the first story came out, they announced Vince will be on the air. Well, now.
So he didn't fully retire.
It's just basically his FU at the story. And they did, one of their biggest ratings of the year. Everybody cheered like crazy.
After the allegations became public, Vince McMahon canceled his final interviews for this series. So this will probably be the last time you hear them talking to Vince amidst these allegations, I should say.
When we published the first article, one of the reactions from some quarters was, well, what did you expect? Vince's public persona, the Mr. McMahon character, was intentionally outrageous. And tied up in all of that was this notion that he was just rapacious and sexually deviant and couldn't control himself. And that was a huge part of the public character. What complicates that is that this was this intentional blurring of fictional and non-fictional.
You're hot, Stacy.
What we have shown is that some of what was played for laughs as part of the character was not that funny and was, in fact, very, very serious.
As we got into the reporting, we found there had been other allegations that surfaced over the years against McMahon. In 2006, there was a woman who worked at a tanning salon, and she alleged that Vince McMahon had shown her naked photos of himself and had groped her. McMahon denies the allegations, and prosecutors decided not to move forward with anything because they didn't think that there was enough independent evidence.
Well, what are you doing? When the tanning salon thing came, weeks later, Vince created a storyline where somebody's just absolutely making up all of these things.
The reporting built on itself after that first story. The more sort of we reported, the more started coming in.
3 weeks ago.
So what you just heard there was a woman pretty much throwing herself at a guy. And when he kind of said, "No, what are you doing?" she started to rip her clothes off and scream, "Help me." So I guess that was what Vince was saying happened, that the girl came after him, but he didn't take it, and then she, proceeded to try to trap.
Vince McMahon stepped down as WWE CEO following allegations of sexual misconduct. It turns out now there's a lot more to the story. Vince McMahon reportedly agreeing to pay $12 million to 4 different women over a 16-year period, according to the Wall Street Journal. The deals were made to suppress allegations of sexual misconduct.
Some of those allegations were, frankly,
Oh, that's a high-ass pussy bill, ain't it? That's $3 million a bitch. Yeah, was it $12 million? Good God. Ooh. A hush money, and then they all came out. Oh, how do you get $3 million and still tell? Whoa, I don't know ever known anybody to trick that much cash. 12 mil? Mm-hmm.
more serious. The most serious one is we learned of a settlement for $7.5 million that McMahon struck with a former wrestler.
Oh, so one of them was for $7.5 million. How come the other women only got $3 million? Or probably because she was an on-air talent. So who knows who this was? Oh my God, $7.5 million. After seeing this, I'll never down you girls who tried to charge me $100 to fuck again. Never. $7.5 million? Y'all need to try to sell that pussy to him. You sell it to him and you'll never have to sell it again.
Who alleged that he had coerced her into oral sex, that she had refused his further advances, and he had not renewed her contract.
Wow.
Vince was always the guy who you always figured would survive, everything. And then it's like a week or two later, all of a sudden it's Friday and Vince has retired.
Oh, so this is the time where he actually retired.
They made the announcement on a Friday because to the end, they thought that it would build ratings for Friday night. So they do it Friday afternoon. So Stephanie McMahon opens the show.
Earlier tonight, my father, Vince McMahon, retired from WWE.
So she finishes her short speech of you wrote his life, did this and that, and then let's go. Thank you, Vince. And she's cheering everyone. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you,
It was exactly what I expected. But it was kind of a shock and
Yeah,
weird
she
and
love you,
surreal only
Dad.
because for 40 years, Vince had been running that company. And all of a sudden in one day, it's all changed.
The reaction in the locker room was uncertainty for sure, but real chaos in a sense that what does WWE look like without Vince?
As far as what I originally thought would happen if Vince was gone, I thought that Stephanie would be the face of the company, and I thought Paul Levesque would be running the great event. And that's essentially what happened.
They both did a very good job. So if he decided to keep the company or give it to one of these two, they still will be in pretty good shape, I'd imagine.
You think the business can survive without him?
Honestly, without Vince, I don't think it will.
It has, and it's doing it. It's
Now
kind of
that he's
thriving.
retired, I think there was great pleasure in seeing him get what's coming to him. But 5 minutes later,
Sharon
do we
Mazer.
care? I don't know how much. I think we'd be more interested to see him come back. I think we'd be much more entertained by that. Because nobody does evil like Vince McMahon. He still generates heat. And heat is what sells tickets.
Do you see Vince coming back?
Because it's wrestling and everything. I would say yes.
Dave Meltzer might be the smartest motherfucker on this whole documentary. Um, Hogan said no, and Dave was like, "This is wrestling," and low key is still his company. So he was like, "Yes." Fast forward January 2023. That's
Changes at the Stanford-based World Wrestling Entertainment. The majority owner, Vince McMahon, has returned to WWE as executive chairman. Meantime, Vince McMahon's daughter, Stephanie McMahon, has resigned as co-CEO of WWE. Many on Wall Street expect McMahon to try to sell the $6 billion company at some point.
What was your reaction when Vince returned?
Wow, that I mean, it was weird.
When Vince came back, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised that people were surprised.
I had definitely heard for a couple of weeks that Vince was getting itchy and wanted to come back, and I didn't know if he would be able to, because I had already known about the board voting unanimously for him not to be back. But he did have the controlling votes. So he returned, he changed members of the board.
the board voted unanimously not to have him back, but he still had 51% of the stock. So if he had the final say, and he was able to come back.
And then days later, Stephanie resigns.
Stephanie McMahon making a statement via Twitter. WWE is in such a strong position that I have decided to return to my leave and take it one step further with my official resignation.
Vince said that he thought he never should have quit, but he was talked into quitting. And he said that it was by somebody close to him. So, you can draw a conclusion from that.
Vince sort of forced his way back in. And it seems to me that Stephanie didn't want anything to do with the company if Vince was going to be involved. I don't think she was forced out.
He's picturing a position constantly like that on him, right?
Sure feels that way.
Come on.
I have absolutely no idea what happened with Stephanie leaving
This
the
is
company.
Bruce Pritchard.
And Dave Meltzer or Shoemaker or whoever else wants to make up their lies and their assumptions. They don't know.
When Vince
Bruce is pretty much kind of like Kevin Dunn joined at the hip with Vince. Um, we've proven pretty much when you listen to some of the shit that's being said in this documentary that Dave Meltzer might have a better idea what's going on than anybody else in the documentary. Go ahead, Bruce.
came back, the first thing they talked about was a potential sale. This was like, okay, we're taking bids.
It is now official. Endeavor announcing WWE and UFC will combine to form a $21 billion global live sports and entertainment company.
The combined WWE and UFC will be called the TKO Group.
Selling the company to a strategic company like Endeavor, I thought was genius. Think about it. It's a new challenge for Vince. He's not just overseeing one company, he's overseeing another company.
I think the idea probably was to sell it in a way where Vince would still have the major say-so.
Vince is going to be the executive chairman, but it's going to be a little bit different for him because WWE shareholders only get 49% of this company versus Endeavor shareholders who get 51%. So he no longer has the absolute control that he did over WWE.
This company's been in your family for 70 years. Is it a tough day?
No, it's a great day. You know, things have to evolve. Family, business, it all has to evolve.
He got billions of dollars for a company that he only paid maybe $2 million for maybe 40 years ago. I'd like to pay $2 million for something to get a couple billion for it after I pay for it. So no, it's not that mustache he got on his and all that black hair dye with that black mustache is fucking me up right now. Whew. Who does this dude look like with this mustache? God damn, like I've never seen him with any facial hair. And now that he's 100 years old, he grows this black mustache. Good God.
For all the right reasons. And this is the right business decision. Thus far, it's the right family decision. There wasn't going to be, the next generation Vince McMahon. It got too big to be a family business. It had to be something to where experts in the big business field were going to be making a lot of the decisions. It's not about the last name. It's not about a family legacy. It's about who is best qualified. We live by the law of the jungle. And the lion who still rules this kingdom wouldn't have it any other way.
Boy, that Paul Heyman, boy.
Really strong right now. The attendance.
Paul Heyman could steal your drawers and sell them back to you. Boy. Oh, man, he can talk.
Best it's been since 2002. More people watch the big events than have ever watched them before. Sponsorship is way beyond anything they've ever had before. Profits
steal them right off your ass and sell them right back to you. Musty and all.
Support entertainment product and not care about the moral fiber of the guy running the product. They want entertainment.
This week, World Wrestling Entertainment agreeing to a $5 billion 10-year deal to take its signature weekly wrestling show, Raw, to Netflix. You saw.
So after a couple years, after signing with Peacock for $1 billion, they get another $5 billion. This is a thriving company all of a sudden. Oh my God. From Netflix to start programming on there for a while. I'm not even sure when it starts though. Maybe they'll tell us here. Go ahead, Bruce. That pinstripe suit you got on, it's kind of fly. That shirt you got on, that blue shirt you got on with it ain't shit though.
some episodes of this show?
Yeah,
Thoughts?
thought they sucked. I didn't think it was balanced at all. I thought it was a gotcha piece. I thought it was portrayed as a gotcha piece. And it was all about how can we make Vince look bad? Let's make him look shitty here. Let's make him look shitty there. I'm close to it. I live it. And it's personal to me.
I'll ask you, is there something about Vince that we're missing?
Yeah, the human side.
Yeah,
Look, Vince is a businessman. But also the other side of Vince is when my wife got cancer, that Vince made sure that she had the best care in the world. My wife was given a 4-year life expectancy. Best case scenario. That was 24 years ago. And that was because Vince McMahon made sure that she got the best care that was available. It wasn't a documentary on Vince and Vince's life and Vince's story. It was, see what an asshole Vince McMahon is. Let's see how big of an asshole we can make him. And if he were one, I would support that. But he's not.
The founder and former CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment.
Okay, Bruce feels like this is unbalanced, but no, I don't think so. I think they did a decent job of pretty much presenting, excuse me, every side of Vince, because it's parts in here in this documentary where he doesn't look that bad, but there's parts in here where he does. He looks like one of the shittiest human beings ever. But, of course, everybody, they say every man has a lion, but everybody has a heart too. If you're close to me and I can do something for you, I'll do it. So yeah, he made sure, because he had the means to make sure that your wife got the best care possible, and that was real great. That was great of him to do so. But some of this shit that's going on with other people also shows that this dude is a prick as well. See, it's two different things going on here. But for the most part, it shows just by him, just by how he's reacting to stuff, that he's a prick.
Is facing new accusations of sexual assault and trafficking tonight. A disturbing new lawsuit is alleging that Vince McMahon sexually abused and trafficked a former employee.
A source tipped me off about the lawsuit being filed.
Contagious
And that
Shafar
happens because of the topic
of the Wall
the
Street
suit. I've
Journal.
written about sex trafficking suits or sexual misconduct. I did not get the sense from people at WWE that they knew the lawsuit was coming. In fact, I heard from sources that they were surprised.
In the lawsuit, Janelle Grant, who worked there up until March 2022, says McMahon.
Okay, now they finally did release Mrs. Grant's name. All right.
Forced her to have sex with him and other men at the WWE headquarters in return for job security.
Janelle Grant was the woman who we first reported on back in 2022. And what Grant says in this lawsuit is that it was not a consensual affair.
What?
The lawsuit paints a picture of sexual abuse, sexual misconduct. She says she was sexually assaulted, that she was lured there on the promise of career advancement, and then eventually exploited sexually and then trafficked to other men by Vince McMahon.
When that lawsuit came out,
Traffic also just means pimp.
honestly, I didn't think that there was anything that could be in there that would shock me, and I was floored. I mean, just absolutely stunned.
Grant's claims include sexual acts involving defecation, restraint.
Grant alleges that he assaulted her with sex toys. named after male wrestlers?
One of the most striking things about this particular lawsuit was the fact that Janelle Grant had reproduced text messages that she had received from Vince McMahon.
Wow, so he allegedly forced sex curl toys on her, and you can see some of these text messages that she reproduces. There's some shit on here. Good God. Ooh, I'm not gonna read all that shit out loud. But also defecated on her. You will have cum coming out of all your holes. That's how one of them ended. That's a lot. That was allegedly a Vince McMahon text message. Whew, if this shit is true, this is a disgusting old man. God.
The suit included screenshots of vulgar text that McMahon allegedly sent to Grant, becoming more graphic, dark, and sadistic. I'm the only one who owns you, one of the messages read, and controls who I want to blank you.
You know, granted, we're only seeing her side of these text messages, or the text message she wants to see. Maybe we'll see more in the future. But it just gave such a window into this relationship that you often don't see, especially in relationships with this power imbalance.
This is one of the most brazen examples in a company setting that I've seen where an executive isn't really taking a lot of steps to hide the behavior.
The lawsuit also accuses McMahon of sharing sexually explicit photos of Grant with other WWE employees, including an unnamed wrestler who the company was trying to re-sign in 2021 without her consent.
We found out from sources that the identity is Brock Lesnar, which is one of WWE's biggest names. She alleges that McMahon shared the explicit photos with him and informed her that he likes what he sees. After the star agreed to a new contract, McMahon told her that sex acts with her were part of the deal.
In a statement, Vince McMahon's spokesperson says this lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene, made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will vigorously defend himself.
WWE's parent company, TKO Group, says it's taking these allegations seriously and addressing the matter internally. WWE.
Okay, this is some wild shit. It's saying that she was basically pimped out to other wrestlers. And Vince isn't talking to this. Isn't a part of the documentary anymore as far as sitting down speaking, as we reported or as they let you know earlier in the episode. But we go now one day after Janelle Grant's lawsuit was filed.
Founder Vince McMahon has resigned as executive chairman of the wrestling company's parent organization. McMahon has denied the allegations, but says he's now resigning, quote, out of respect for the WWE universe.
The fact that he resigns the day after the lawsuit is filed suggests that things have changed. He's in a new company. He no longer has the same control. And if, someone asks him to leave,
they probably made him
leave.
resign, no doubt.
At that point, Vince was fully pushed out of any role in TKO or WWE. And after the Janelle Grant accusations, you start hearing rumors and accusations from a variety of sources. In 2016, Ashley Massaro claimed that she had been raped during a WWE tour of...
Now I remember Ashley. Here's more on the story. Ashley, I let them tell it. It did not come. I shouldn't have stopped it right there. My bad.
Kuwait by a man posing as a military doctor. She accused WWE of not responding seriously to her allegations when she told them. She says that Vince McMahon knew about it and that WWE functionally covered it up to protect the business. WWE put out a statement completely denying these claims, And they basically said that they were never informed that this had taken place, and if they had been, they would have reported it. A decade later, in 2019, Massaro was found dead in an apparent suicide. After the Janelle Grant allegations, Ashley Massaro's attorney released a previously unreleased statement from Massaro that claimed that Vince McMahon made sexual advances on her, that Vince was well known for this sort of thing. Massaro said she rejected him, but from her point of view, Vince responded by writing stories whose sole purpose was to just embarrass her.
You gonna cry now? You're just running a death.
Wow. So they basically show him in saying that he wrote storylines after this alleged incident that pretty much would embarrass Ashley. And now Ashley is unfortunately taking her life. Um I guess after allegedly she would ignore his advances or reject his advances, he's running the show and he pretty much wrote things pretty much to embarrass her. Now that where she basically gets coffee thrown to, she actually accidentally ran into Vince and hit him with coffee, and he's in her face, all in her grill, berating her and suspending her is, ooh, that's rough to see. That was kind of rough to see, especially if all this stuff. Now you understand some of it's a story, but especially with all this stuff that's allegedly happened with them in the background, and now the young woman has taken her own life. Wow, that was really rough to watch. Go ahead.
Since he was kind of removed from his job, Vince has sold all of his stock in the company and
Got a couple
completely
more
left.
$1 billion off of that shit.
One of the most powerful things for WWE is that they have been able to keep going without Vince, and they've been thriving without Vince.
Night 2 of Wrestle.
They absolutely have been thriving without Vince. As Hulk Hogan said that he didn't think the business could survive without him. It damn sure is. At least right now, it's as hot as it's ever been.
We set records this week for social media, for merchandise, for sponsorship. Just destroyed records for Gates. This was legitimately the biggest WrestleMania of all time.
Destroy records for the gate. That means the house, the arena show, the pay-per-view, all kinds of viewership all over the world. They probably had all kinds of sponsors because it's, the WWE's version of the Super Bowl.
Last question. What do you think Vince's legacy will be?
Vince's legacy, my goodness, he is his legacy is just I don't know.
Oh man, that's a tough one, huh?
Man, what do I think Vince McMahon legacy is going to be?
None of them can really answer the question.
Man, it's a good question.
Ooh, I think I might be the wrong guy to ask that question.
What do you think Vince's legacy will be?
The greatest promoter of all time. He earned that. Even though there's things about him that I don't like or respect,
Mm.
You can't take that from him. If you want a real view of Vince McMahon and pro wrestling, there's a lot of positive, there's a lot of negative. I mean, he's the most important figure in the history of wrestling. In his prime, he was an absolute creative genius, but he's far from a saint. This is a man that wants more and more and more. I've got an insatiable appetite for life, and I want more. It doesn't stop. And that's how you build something from $1 million to $1 billion to $10 billion.
Pro wrestling for all these years painted life in this very simple way. You know, there's good guys and there's bad guys. And I think that the real lesson.
Wow. When you look at the, well, let's go back. I think Tony Atlas was the only one here that answered the question, and he answered it as honestly as he could. But with all these allegations coming out, would he be known as the greatest promoter ever? I don't know. I mean, when you look at his work, took $1 million in 1982, and in 2024 is worth $10 billion. It's pretty, and a lot of it was due to his promotion and the people he decided to put in place to help him with it. Is maybe, but will that really be his legacy if all these allegations are true? Y'all answer that in the comment section after y'all watch this video.
Vince McMahon is that like life is never that simple. Like it's possible that Vince McMahon created this thing that we all love, and at the same time, he is an incredibly problematic, potentially like deplorable human being. I'm sure he would like to go down as like the legend who created WWE, but anything good that he did is now inextricable from all the bad stuff that he did.
What's my legacy? But I don't have one. Everyone has a certain feeling about who they think Vince McMahon is. But people really don't know me at all. A lot of people have confused through the years, who my character was on television and who I am. When I look in the mirror, I know who I'm looking at. I know the reflection. Describe Vince McMahon.
They're showing a video of him working out. This 70-year-old man works out all the time. I heard 3 times a week, working out with heavy weights and like really going at it. There's some amazing things about this guy, as it is probably about a lot of billionaires, which is probably why they hold a whole lot of billionaires, because you have to be a special type of person, whether that's good or bad, to even accomplish having $1 billion fucking dollars. Go ahead, finish describing yourself, Vince.
That would be really very tough to do. Let's see. Egomaniac, physical culturist, someone who needs to be challenged every day, sexually active, psychologically challenged, sort of a paradox of paradox.
Yeah, he's crazy as hell, but why do we need to know a man in his upper 70s is sexually active? Why would you even say that? Like, sometimes you can be a little bit too honest, especially with all the allegations that are coming upon you right now. Ooh, I don't know, but again, they filmed this before Miss Grant came out with all her allegations and testimony. Finish describing yourself, Vince.
The only person who can defend is me because I did it all. Sometimes the lines of reality or fact and fiction are very blurred in our business. Sometimes what happens is performers start believing in themselves. They start believing his own character. The individual loses all sense of who they really are personally. They become the character. My name is not Vince. My name is Mr. McMahon. I'm wondering myself now, which is the character and which is me. I guess maybe it's a blend. And I would suggest that one is exaggerated a little bit, but I'm not so sure which one.
Vince McMahon is currently under federal criminal investigation related to allegations of sexual misconduct and trafficking. Brock Lesnar has not publicly commented on his involvement in these allegations. I guess Miss Grant was trafficked out to Brock Lesnar. That's the only one that has came out that she was actually given to by Vince. Oh, and what's the Johnny John Laurinaitis also is a part of this. Allegedly, he had relations with Miss Grant. That Vince he said Vince made him have relations with Miss Grant. Let's go. Well, I think this might be it for this. This lawsuit is paused while the federal investigation is conducted. Yeah, that's it. Wow, this is gonna be a whole 2 hour video. I guess I didn't even know you could be on Instagram Live for 2 hours. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing and check us out for more and more on the Mick and Mike podcast on YouTube for the team leader Mike Love. This is the Sports Doctor Spock, Mickey Coleman. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check us out live on Sunday nights. I'm gonna try this if we can do it around 8 o'clock every Sunday night. Right now, that's what we'll do. The Mick and Mike podcast. Check us out for laughs, serious intellectual discussion, and much, much more. Take care of yourselves. Bye.